Hey everyone, welcome to Plants and Politics. So, got a little feedback on some stuff. If Democrats want to avoid a Trump 2024 campaign, or even if it's not Trump, someone else equally repugnant running on the Republican side and having another narrow, nail-biting election in 2024, they need to disregard what many of the pundits on MSNBC and CNN have to say. Everybody needs to stop believing, Democrats need to stop believing everything that comes from the mouths of never Trump Republicans, such as John Kasich, the Lincoln Project guys, all of these people. They're leading you down the wrong path. And I have actual proof of that. So, for example, former Ohio Governor John Kasich recently went on a tirade. He was on MSNBC and he claimed that the far left progressives and their goals and preferences are what nearly cost Biden the election. And this is something I talked about the other day. Abigail Spanberger had, a meltdown on a call, and a few other people. But empirical evidence proves that Kasich and all of these other people are dead wrong. They're completely out of touch with what the majority of Americans want, and I can prove it. So, first of all, if Kasich is so good at gauging what citizens want and need, and if he really has his finger on the pulse of the American heartbeat, why and how did Biden lose the state of Ohio? That's Kasich's state. That's a state that Barack Obama won right before Trump took office, right before he won in 2016, by talking about jobs and other kitchen table bread and butter issues. Weren't the people of Ohio excited to see Kasich at the Democratic National Convention? Why didn't it move Republicans in that state? Why didn't they get out and vote for Biden instead of Trump? I mean, one would think that if Kasich spoke for working class Americans and he knew what they desired, what turned them on and turned them off, his appearance at the DNC would have brought Biden a victory in that state, wouldn't it? And why is it that Trump received more of the Republican vote this year than he did in 2016, including in Ohio? Now, Kasich would have you believe it's because of us horrible lefties. We scared people away with socialist programs. But Biden may have lost in the state of Florida, and Republican elites like Kasich claim, oh, that's because of socialism. That's because of the boogeyman, socialism. But Florida ballot measures like a $15 minimum wage, legalizing marijuana, they won by huge margins. Those are not right-wing propositions. Those are not right-wing policies. In fact, those two policies are championed by far on the left more than any other political leaning group in the country. They're majoritarian issues, just as Medicare for All polls extremely high with all political groups, including it does very well with Republican voters. And what about these Lincoln Project guys? Do they know what they're talking about? I mean, they were once racist war criminals, but, now the left embraces them, cradles them in their bosom. I mean, Nicole Wallace just recently had Rick Wilson on, and I wish I could have missed it because it was so gross. I mean, she just was gushing over him. She's like fawning, praising him after Biden was announced victorious, giving him all the credit. But did he really deserve it? Does he and the Lincoln Project actually deserve the credit for it?
It says no.
So not only does the computer say no, but voters say no. A Dem-backed company called Fellow Americans tested numerous ads, and they did it in a way that doesn't just measure engagement. So up until now, that's how ads have been measured. They look at things like the likes, the shares. The problem is that can be very deceptive because, of course, it could only be liked and shared by people who were already going to vote for you. The question is it moving the needle? Is it making a difference? So what this group does is they actually calculate results and use control groups, much like drug companies do, to test pharmaceuticals. And they use these control groups and then the test groups to determine the effectiveness of the ads. So they're looking at, does it increase support for a candidate? That's what matters. What Fellow Americans found is that the Lincoln Project type ads were actually counterproductive and actually turned viewers off to the Democrats. The exact opposite of what we want. So this group, Fellow Americans, they also went back and they tested some of the ads that Hillary Clinton's team ran back in 2016. They tested ads that they thought were incredible. Like the members of this group thought that these were touching, that they brought tears to their eyes. Guess what they found? It actually made many undecided voters more likely to support Trump. In particular, it was one that talked about how Donald Trump talks about women. They used his voice insulting women. People are sick of that. People, again, and I go back to this over and over again, in marketing, people want to know what's in it for me. What are you going to do for me? I know that is cynical. I know it is not what you want to hear, but that is where people are. And you have to meet people where they're at. So you have to figure out, what are these people amenable to? What are their needs? What are they literally hurting for? What matters to them? Not what matters to you. You know, I have family members who do this with gifts. They will go and they just think it's so great. They will get you gifts that they want. It's something that really excites them. The problem is you're not interested in it at all, but they don't care because they're excited about it. So that's kind of what it's like with these people. So a person named Jess McIntosh is a former Democratic communications strategist, and he's a member of Fellow Americans. He recently spoke with Vanity Fair about the project that they're doing and their findings. And here's what he told them, quote, "The scary doom and gloom negative campaign spots that you typically see in an election year not only aren't working with people the way we want, they're causing backlash among the people that we need." McIntosh also told Vanity Fair that ads that show Trump or feature his voice were the least effective. He stated, quote, "Trump is so saturated, you can make the case that you want to make without even saying his name. The point of ads that seem to work is not centering him, either with audio or visually. And that's how people seem to be receptive, which is sort of the exact opposite of what you saw in 2016 and even so far in 2020. So one consultant for Fellow Americans, Samarth Bhaskar, I believe is how you pronounce his name, told Vanity Fair that young people especially were turned off by typical political ads. He said, quote, "They're more skeptical. They're oftentimes just kind of like, oh, I haven't had the best luck in life. They don't make a ton of money. They haven't got a college degree." So with those groups in particular, we've seen when you put something in front of them that looks like a political ad or a political video, they get turned off right away. So they found that ads that were more positive and upbeat, featuring neither Trump or Biden, actually worked best at moving the needle towards Democrats. But Fellow Americans isn't the only group who's pointing out this flawed thinking of these 1990s style pundits and politicians. A couple of other groups, Justice Democrats, which is a progressive group, they have like a PAC and they help primary Democrats who are not sufficiently progressive. The Sunrise Movement also, which is all about the environment and climate change. They recently joined forces and they commissioned a study and an analysis to understand which policy positions either helped or hurt Democrats in swing districts. So this is really interesting. What they found refutes everything you're going to hear from mainstream media and from elitist dinosaurs like not only Kasich, but James Carville, all these people who, yeah, they may have known what they were talking about back in the 90s. They don't have a freaking clue about what's going on today and what actually moves the needle and attracts voters. So what they found, again, in this analysis, the more swing district Democrats moved to the right on issues, the more they pretended to be conservative, the more their vote share declined. In fact, Democrats who embraced and supported Medicare for all did far better than centrist Democrats in swing districts who tried to position themselves as like a kinder, gentler Republican. You know why? Because Republican voters are going to vote for an actual Republican. They want someone who not just financially, just not economically agrees with them, but who caters to their conservative ideological beliefs as well, like on abortion and similar issues. So meanwhile, Democrats in these swing districts are trying so hard to seem more Republican that they alienate a lot of their Democratic base. And they 100% repel progressive voters, especially younger voters, because they're so busy trying to bait their hook with economic conservatism to reel in these moderates that they completely miss the mark. They completely alienate and push away progressive voters. And this is also a huge slap in the face to Democrats who put many of these candidates in their positions of power in 2018. You know, in that midterm, people were thinking that they were going to hold Republican lawmakers and Trump accountable. And now these people have morphed almost into moderate Republicans themselves. And this also comes across as extremely disingenuous, which is another huge turnoff, especially for young voters. And guess who's going to make up a large share of the voting population in 2 to 4 years, in the next midterms, in the next presidential election? As boomers age out of the voting system, candidates are going to need to start changing how they interact with and attract millennials and Gen Zers. And above all, across all age groups, people want and crave authenticity. Even if they don't necessarily agree with a candidate on every issue, they're sick and tired of these slick politicians who say or do anything to get elected, and they waffle on their positions. Depending on who's in front of them, they are for Medicare for all. They're not for Medicare for all. Well, I kind of believe in a living wage, but I don't know if I want to do $15. I don't know if I want this. I don't know if I want that. Yeah, I care about climate change, but oh no, a Green New Deal. I mean, that's just a bridge too far. People don't trust these types of candidates anymore. They can smell the BS from a mile away. This is why The Fellow Americans group found that voters preferred ads with real people in them. They liked the ads where people were just talking to a camera, giving a testimonial. What was really striking and very eye-opening was the fact that voters actually responded better to videos with the worst lighting. And that sounds so counterintuitive, so odd, but apparently they really appreciated that it appeared to be a real person telling a real story. You know, it wasn't a high-digit production from some DC think tank that was just trying to manipulate their opinion and manipulate their vote. They want real people representing them. They're tired of having people look down at them and tell them what they should want, what they should need, how they should feel about things. They want people to look at them and say, I hear you, I get you. Yes, you're right. You're right for feeling angry. You're right for believing that the system is rigged against you, because it is. And I, seeing that, knowing that, acknowledging it, am going to get in there and I'm going to fight on your behalf. So, gotta wake up, guys. I'm going to keep pushing on this over the next few years because it's so vital. If we don't make these changes, if there is not a paradigm shift in the Democratic Party, it's doomed, because progressives are going to break off, left-leaning independents are going to go with them, and there's not going to be enough of a base left to win. So, you know, as the saying goes, dance with the one who brought you. You got to stick with your base. All of this flirting with these few, you know, handful of never Trumpers or no, not any more Trumpers, whatever you want to call them, people who just came to the realization that he's a lunatic. It's not going to get you very far. And as I've said before, as soon as a standard issue Bush era like Republican comes along and crooks their little finger, those people are going to be gone and they're going to leave Democrats in their dust. You can build a massive base, but you've got to bring in working class people. It can't just be college educated elites. The majority of the country did not go to college. So you're losing out. You're losing these people to a party that doesn't care about them. They just know the right things to say. As always, guys, like, share, subscribe. Thanks for watching and listening. I will talk to you soon. Take care. Thanks for listening to Plants and Politics. The only way we can take our country and power back is to spread the truth and build an army. So remember to like, follow, subscribe, and share on Facebook, YouTube, and wherever you listen to your podcasts. Thanks again.